On today's episode of Phinside The NFL, boy oh boy, who would have thunk it? Reason was right again. Tua shows up to OTAs, keeps his word. He's not holding out. And man, it's a lot quieter on these streets without the prospect of him holding out right now, huh? We'll talk about that. Plus, a prominent agent says the word around the league is it's expected that Tua Tagovailoa's deal will be done by training camp. We'll talk about that and so much more as the first day of OTAs begin. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you are new. Let's get into this.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score!
Field down the near side. That open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. He's got it for the touchdown again. Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We're back here for another one. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I am hoping your Monday has served you or is serving you very well. Already over 110 of you in the room. Do me the favor, smash the like button, subscribe if you are new. Do you hear that? I can't even hear crickets. It is so silent on these Twitter, on these YouTube, on all these Dolphin community streets now that, by God, who would have thunk it? Tua kept his words like the receipts I showed when I returned from vacation to absolutely slaughter that CBS story and to show y'all this is just athletes first, putting pressure on our quarterback and our team to get this deal done. From our quarterback, I should say, to get this deal done with the team. That's all that is. This is just athletes first, and that's where we are. He kept his word, like what he told y'all he would do at the luau, and he showed up. But breaking news, Tua Tagovailoa isn't holding out, huh? Where's the breaking news stories? Where's the breaking news? Because the facts don't care about your feelings. And the fact is, I told all y'all he wouldn't hold out. I told all y'all what the play has been this whole time. And I would continue to tell y'all what's happening. Tua Tagovailoa is going to get paid. And this is turning into an athlete's first public negotiation. You had Cam Wolf right before, an hour before the schedule releases. Both sides are optimistic a deal will get done. 2 days later, Tua is holding out from OTAs. I come back, I show you all the receipts, and I disprove that. 24 hours after I disprove everything on YouTube, a news story is spun. Well, he turned down a contract offer. Come on. We know what's happening right now. And hey, I'm not judging anyone. This is how Athletes First operates. You know, do you, boo-boo. I'm not here. I just want my quarterback locked up so we can move on and start locking Waddle up, right? Getting Holland locked up. This is where I'm at right now. Let's get this done. And for me, based on what we saw the last 2 years, we all want him to take the next step, right? Well, guess what? The next step is like NFL MVP. Because last year his step became the league leader in passing yards and in the conversation until the Baltimore Ravens lost. That deep into the season being in the MVP convo. Now the next step is MVP. Y'all think $53 to $55 million is a lot right now? Let him go win an MVP award. Then Herbert will really ain't have nothing to talk about because all you Herbert people will come out with your little, oh, well, he was rookie of the year. Yeah, well, guess what? MVP trumps that. I'll tell you this much. What do you want? A guy who gets rookie of the year in his first year and then, got you picking in the top 5 in year 5? Or do you want, and getting his second coaching staff fired? Or do you want a guy like, I don't know, 4 straight winning seasons, 2 straight back-to-back playoff appearances? In year 4, instead of us picking 5th overall, he leads the league in passing. I'm just saying. And everyone knows I'm a big Burrow guy. Everyone knows I love Joe Burrow. But I keep it real. Who's more injury prone as we sit here now? The one guy who can beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs can't stay healthy now. This is worse than Tua. And they've already committed that money to him. And what's happening? No longer does he have a 3-headed monster at receiver. Looks like T. Higgins is dipping, so they won't even have Higgins. Mixon's gone. He's watching everything just fall by its wayside around him while he can't even control it. Well, we're still in a window to win. And you want to talk about a real holdout? There's an actual holdout happening today. Justin Jefferson didn't show up for OTAs. That's a real holdout. That is a legitimate holdout. Why isn't, and I saw people, we told all you this was coming. I saw people posting this. We told all y'all this was coming. And he was like, yeah, okay. Told us what? Listen, and I'm going to tell you this much. The way this team is being built, because I just saw Timothy Washington's comment, and it just clicked for me. Think about this, man. We said they were last year. Now they're even more this year. So it's arguably the most depleted roster the Buffalo Bills have fielded since Tua's been in the league. Right? Remember, Tua, 11-6 against the AFC East. All 6 lost against Buffalo. He's undefeated against the other 2 AFC East teams, which I don't think changes this year. Sorry, Jets fans. But this is the most depleted roster you could say. I mean, they've rebuilt. Like, Gabe Davis is gone. Diggs is gone. Curtis Samuel, everyone knows I'm a Curtis Samuel fan, but he's not a number 1. Come on, we really think Keon Coleman is a threat right now? He's going to struggle this year. Dalton Kincaid is the biggest threat there right now. Okay, and we got linebackers that can cover now. So, but I digress. This is the most depleted the Bills have been since Tua has been in the league to start a season in terms of their roster quality, not injuries, but roster quality. The Kansas City Chiefs, like Timothy Washington said, are dealing with off-season issues. CJ Stroud, listen, I don't want him to because I got some rookie cards that are valuable, but it happens. Look at what happened to Kader Kohu. He could enter a sophomore slump. I mean, you look at it right now, Lamar Jackson's won as many MVPs as he has won playoff games in the 6 years he's been in the league now. 2. So who's really worried about that? I'm just saying, that AFC, yeah, there's powerhouses, but it's open. It is open. Now, on the flip side, we want to see what Harbaugh does in LA, which I don't see them as a 12-win team. I'm sorry, I don't. I see them as like a 9 or 10-win team. And then we want to see where Joe Burrow is at, where he comes back. Is Joe Burrow going to get back to what he was? You know what I mean? So, Knight says, man, did you see the list of ex-Dolphins UFAs? I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm going to be honest with you, Knight. I don't even know what you're talking about. Just throw it in the comments what you're talking about. But my whole thing here is this AFC is wide open for us. Now, I do agree with Timothy that Casey's got all this off-field issues, but if there's any team that can overcome it, it's a team led by Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Everyone knows how much I love Andy Reid. That's my guy right there. Next to Mike McDaniel, he is my favorite. He's a better coach than Bill Belichick. I don't care what anyone tells me. Okay, I watched in awe what he did with the Eagles, and I've watched in with the McNabb era, and I've watched in awe what he did, with KC. Like, that's the thing, everyone's like I had someone say, you can't pay Tua because, he's not going to be, you can't win the big one with him. Well, who's winning the big one right now who's winning the big one right now if you ain't Patrick Mahomes? Since 2020, what are we doing here? Since 2019? The only two other teams to win were NFC teams. And one was Tom Brady, and the other one was an absolutely stacked Rams team. Y'all, we went from one dynasty to another. We've never seen this in football. When was the last time we saw this? A 20-year dynasty now getting followed by a potential another 10-year dynasty. When have you seen this? 30 years basically dominated, and they're both AFC teams. So it's not like the AFC is fighting to be the one to beat that team in the Super Bowl. I mean, yeah, we lost. The NFL MVP put up how many more points than us? 3, and he was at home. Wasn't dealing with one of the coldest games in history, and wasn't dealing with minus 27 mile per hour winds. And they put up 3 more points than us. That's the thing people aren't realizing. We are in an era right now. Justin Herbert got paid. All of you that hate on Tua and don't want him paid, you say his stats this year are hollow. So then what the hell are Herbert's stats? They're hollow, and he got paid, what, 1 or 2 million less on overall, but he did get less guaranteed. But in terms of annual average, he got 1 or 2 million less than a guy who went to a Super Bowl and 2 AFC championships in Joe Burrow? Yeah, 2 AFC championships, right? I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. This is where you're at right now. This is how it works. Welcome to Business 101. I know some of y'all want to front like you actually know how to own and operate businesses, but I mean, I wouldn't let you operate a candy vending machine, let alone a real business. So, welcome to Business 101. This is how it works. So, I mean, you got guys that are getting paid that ain't one Jack Bo Diddley. Because by these haters' definitions, stats in the regular season are hollow. So then by that logic, Lamar Jackson got paid and his MVPs don't matter because they're regular season, right? And he only has 2 playoff wins in 6 years, right? With these stacked teams he's dealt with. And one of the best head coaches of the modern era. He won it with Flacco. Flacco wasn't the athlete. See, this is where the argument gets fun, too. All these people saying, well, you need a scrambling guy to win. Oh, well, go talk to Harbaugh. Who did he win with? The pocket guy or the guy who runs around with like a chicken with his head cut off? Who did he win with? Remind me who they won with. And don't just and remember, Ray Lewis came back, and y'all should know this because we paid Darnell Ellerby. Ray Lewis came back after that antler spray, but what did Flacco do? Flacco beat Eli Manning's touchdown to interception ratio on his Super Bowl run. What was it, 11 or 12 touchdowns to passing touchdown to 0 interceptions. So what won it? Who won it with Harbaugh? The pocket guy or the run around like a chicken with your head cut off guy? And then guess what? We get another $10 million if you sign him this offseason. Sign Tua, and we free up more cap. And what are they going to do next year? Because he's going to be on the roster, they're going to restructure him. They're going to do exactly what the Chiefs did to Mahomes. You structure right away to create more money to keep the window open. And Tua will do it because that'll mean more money, guaranteed money comes in his pocket. So I find it really odd that everyone's quick to jump the gun when it looks like Tua might be holding out. But now that he isn't, it's like crickets on a warm summer's eve. Rhino Sith, God of Mod Squad, says, I had someone tell me on X that Ryan Tannehill and Jay Fiedler are better Dolphins quarterbacks than Tua. Hey, we got people out here that said Josh Rosen was a franchise quarterback. Like I say, just because these people have the ability to talk on a platform like an X or a platform on YouTube doesn't mean they should or they should even be taken seriously. Tua Tagovailoa as a passer is light years ahead of where Ryan Tannehill was as a passer. Jay Fiedler, here Rhino Sith, I could tell that guy wasn't watching the Dolphins hardcore like we did back then, right? If you did, you want to talk about wasted potential with Jay Fiedler and those teams. Okay, number one. Number two, you want to talk about a guy who throws the most inopportune interceptions in the last 25 years to wear a Dolphins jersey, who was a starter for multiple years. It's Jay Fiedler. Bro, I was a teenager and I used to want to pull my hair out watching that guy. Unbelievable. I'm sorry. I was saying, look at how many guys who were on the roster in that playoff game sitting as UDAs right now, but it's Tua's fault. Yeah. I think you mean UFAs, right? Yeah, UFAs. Okay, just making sure. I had to look at my keyboard for a sec. These next half. Yeah, you're right. And it starts with Xavier Howard, who thought he was worth $20 million. Oh, buddy. You know what Randy McMichael and Chris Chambers would have been with a guy like Tua Tagovailoa? 84 was a monster, man. Chambers was a monster. I'm so sad when he went to the Chargers. So sad. So sad. But, yeah. Man, everyone sleeps on Randy McMichael, right? You can tell a lot of the newer fans talk about, like, Charles Clay and stuff. Like, that's where it starts for them. But Randy McMichael, man. Honestly, even if Marino. Oh, man. Anyways, yeah, Chambers was a beast. Chambers was a monster. One of my favorite receivers to come through and wear the colors, man. For real. He was awesome. He was unreal. Yeah, there you go. Ricky says Chambers was my favorite wide receiver as a kid. Yeah, he was a beast. Good memories, man. Man, we had some dogs out there. Yeah, Arounnd Gatson. I was literally about to say Arounnd Gatson, Jose. Yeah, we had some dogs out there, man. But I was a huge Randy McMichael fan too. Huge Randy McMichael guy. So, listen, I say all that to say this. Come on, man. Let's keep it consistent. Yeah, I remember Chris Carter when he came here. He was a shell of himself. To be honest with you, you were talking about wide receivers here. I talked about this before, and it pissed me off because I hadn't watched it in years, but I rewatched our first Hard Knocks last year, last offseason. So even before our in-season was announced, I watched it, and I remember being so bitter when they just didn't give Ocho Cinco another chance. Anthony Fasano was a beast. But I remember being so bitter. I mean, and I remember, when they traded Vontae Davis. Man, I thought Sean Smith and Vontae Davis were going to be the next best young corner duo if they kept them together and they split them up. Sean Smith ended up having a really good career in Kansas City. Vontae was good for the Colts, and he did the best thing possible. Walked out on the Bills when he was there at halftime. So even more respect to Vontae Davis. Put him in the Ring of Honor for that. Brandon Marshall was good for us. Yeah, I liked Brandon Marshall. Hell, like talk about Mike Wallace. We want to talk about Ryan Tannehill was better. If Ryan Tannehill was better than Tua, why was Mike Wallace so frustrated and wanted to leave? See, that's the thing. People forget these same people that used to tell you Tannehill was a franchise quarterback and trying to tell you Tua's not a franchise quarterback and players don't want to come play with Tua. Tannehill basically drove Mike Wallace out of here because he was like, I am not playing with that trash. Now, I always give this props too. Because of that whole situation, Tannehill's deep ball did get a little bit better because he worked on it. But Mike Wallace absolutely despised playing with Ryan Tannehill. So, and I do agree with Ron. Brandon Marshall is a clown. He's turned into a head case. He's not a good person. So let's continue. Let's get into it here. Got a lot to cover. R.I.P. Vontae Davis for real. All right. My morning started off good. How about yours? At 8:32 a.m., Diana Rossini of The Athletic, quote, Dolphins QB Tua Tagovailoa is in the building for the start of Dolphins OTAs per source. The QB is slated to become the next quarterback to receive a big payday, but the sides are in negotiations. Tagovailoa said he was planning on attending the workouts. Get your paintbrush and color me shocked, people. I told you when I got off those sandy, beautiful beaches of Punta Cana and arrived back home, I told all y'all he ain't holding out. I provided receipts of him being at the voluntary workouts. I also provided the context for all you guys, if you hadn't seen or heard it yet, that anyone should have realized. I don't know why it took me coming back from vacation to put it out there, though, on YouTube, but here we are. Tua's got to fly to California for 3D QB in his training. This is no longer working with Wes Carroll of cornerback prep through Perform, who was available to him in Florida. It's no longer that's no longer the case. He has to fly. So what are we talking about here? So I listed you all the reasons. I listed receipts. He had met OBJ at the facility before OBJ went and talked to the media. He had private workout sessions with Malik Washington. That Malik Washington converted throwing the ball. Okay? There's pictures from Dolphin social media of him throwing at workouts. Like, there's a list, and I laid all those receipts out, so I don't know why people were trying to spin a narrative. I guess people are desperate for clicks right now. DT Forever 04 donates $2. Appreciate you, DT. Thank you. And Knight says, imagine Tua with the 2008 or 2016 team. I agree. Buddy, the line in 2016. Imagine Tua Tagovailoa with those unicorns. Imagine Tua Tagovailoa with that unicorn line. Are you kidding me? Like, and then you'd have a running game. Then you'd have a running game on top of it because J.J. popped off. I'm just saying. Brandon Albert, Laramie Tunsil, Mike Pouncey, Jerron Bushrod, and Jawan James protecting him. And then J.J. running the ball. Jordan Cameron. Everyone knows I've talked about Jordan Cameron a lot on this channel. Me and Alf even talked about him, but I've talked about him a lot on this channel when it comes to John Embry, because people forget how good that kid was with the Cleveland Browns. And then Devontae Parker, when he wasn't banged up and broken down. Jarvis Landry in the slot. And Kenny Stills. Tua would have lit it up with that offense. And if Arian Foster could have stayed healthy, it would have been even better. That's the line we need to build. That's the last great offensive line in Miami. Brandon Albert and Laramie Tunsil on the left side was just so spoiled of riches. Oh, my God. Now, I'll say this. I think there's not going to be a steep drop-off from Connor Williams to Aaron Brewer. I think Aaron Brewer actually fits. I think they can do more in terms of pulling with Aaron Brewer. Remember, the Titans like to pull with a center, that's not very normal because he moves so well. So I think there's little wrinkles they're going to be able to add just with Aaron Brewer and his athleticism and lateral ability to move. So Listen, if Isaiah Wynn's healthy and Teron Armstead's healthy, I see the vision. But the problem is neither one of those guys have shown they can stay healthy for a full season. Then on the right side, listen, I told all y'all when we got Jack Driscoll, Eichenberg and Driscoll, that's going to be your right guard battle. And sure enough, here we are. And Austin Jackson obviously locked it down at right side. If Jack Driscoll's going to give Eichenberg a run for his money, his best tape is at right guard. I've been saying this since we signed him. He's going to. This is why I think they're not bringing in a Greg Van Roten. I hope they do. I don't think they're bringing in a Dalton Risner. I hope they do. I would bring in another center. The guy who they should have thrown some money at as a well-paid is Cody Whitehair. He can play center in both guard positions. I wanted him at the trade deadline too. I would have thrown some money at him. I would have said, listen, you're either the backup center or you're probably going to be starting guard because one of those guys is going to get hurt. Let's be honest with ourselves. Knock on wood. Don't want it to happen, but, I'm not going to sit here and start lying to myself. So, man, that team was unbelievable. Tua would have lit it up. So, anyways, moral of the story is this. Tua Tagovailoa not holding out. All those fear mongers, scurry back in your little holes. It ain't happening. You know why he's not going to hold out? And it'll be more of remember Christian Wilkins did a hold in where you might not see him, participate in everything, but he'll show up. Because Tua, we just talked about the talent around him in 2016. Look at the talent around him now. Right? Tyreek, OBJ, Waddle, Jonnu Smith, Achane, the right stuff, Mostert. That line, if they do stay healthy. All he's seeing is cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching when I stay healthy. He's confident now that he can play healthy football. It's all a mindset. I tell you all the time, playing that position is 90% mental. It's literally that position is 90% mental. So all this you got to win with the trades. First of all, where's the guy? Where have you seen a scrambling guy win? Vic couldn't win. Lamar can't win. Deshaun Watson looks like a shell of himself, but he is a good passer. But he still looks like a shell of himself. Where's it? That's only 10% of the game, man. That's only 10% of the game. Ron says, I'm challenging this right now. Tua will blow the league wide open this season. Take it to the bank. I won't be surprised. Listen, take it to the bank is exactly why that's exactly what Tua is planning on doing, Ron. That's exactly what Tua is planning on doing. That's why he'll hold in and he won't hold out. Do you think he's going to give up the opportunity? I keep telling everyone's 53, 55 million. That's the market right now, right? Did you see the reports today? It's getting even stronger on Trevor Lawrence. It's getting even stronger. Remember we talked about this yesterday. The Jags are all in on paying Trevor Lawrence 50 plus million. This guy was a legit middle of the pack guy last year. And he has been since he entered the league. Doug Peterson said the organization has been working tirelessly on getting a contract extension done with Tua. You better get it done before Trevor Lawrence gets paid or else you ain't got a choice. Look at Tua. Look at Tua, man. When you break it down, he's 32-19. Trevor Lawrence is 20-30. Tua Tagovailoa completion percentage 66.9. You have to get it done. Shout out to the homie Cash. Let me just bring this up. He did the work. You have to. I mean, look at. I'll put it right to you. Look at it right now. Look at this. Look at this right now. Tua's thrown for more yards. Tua's thrown for less interceptions. More touchdowns. Has a better QB rating. Had a better completion percentage. If they're destined to give this guy, and look at it's not like there's a massive difference in games, guys. Tua has played 51 games. Lawrence has played 50. So there's a 1-game difference. And they tried to load up for Trevor Lawrence. You cannot let Lawrence set the market, because if Lawrence sets the market, we are screwed. We are screwed. Get this done now. Now that I'm hearing this Lawrence rumblings, I would be pushing to get this done. I'm not even joking. I'm not even just saying that. And again, back to Ron's point, taking it to the bank. If this guy leads the league in passing again, and wins the MVP this year, because that's been the trajectory it's looking like. He was in the MVP conversation until he got hurt year 1 in this offense. He was in the MVP conversation until the Ravens game last year, which was like deep into the season, right? Almost to the end of the season. Now, if we clinch early and he's leading the league, and I mean, y'all saw the AI generated numbers. I mean, we're talking almost 4,100 yards between OBJ and Waddle, and Tyreek is a real possibility. And I broke down his pass attempts last year. He threw the ball 560 times. There's a lot of targets to go around. And what's going to happen? You're going to cry about 53, 55 million. This thing's going to go up to 65 million. Now what? Because if you lock him in down, go back a couple shows ago, I did the math for y'all. If you lock him in now at 53 to 55 million, that contract doesn't even kick in till next season. And when it does, it'll be under 20%. By year 3, it'll be from 16.5 to 17% of the cap. He won't even be taking 20% of the cap off in any of those years. And it'll just keep lowering and lowering and lowering by each year. Now, when you tack on an extra 10 million to that, those percentages change. And they go up. Man, we got to have some foresight here. Got to have some foresight, Greer and Shore. Got to get this done. Now, I get it. It's probably coming down to details of like playtime incentives and such that are written through the contract to try and protect our team, which I agree with 110% given his history. But you got to get that figured out. You got to come to a common ground. You do. So, anyways, that's that. So, let's talk about a few things here. All right? Let's talk about a few things in terms of his contract. So, this is what, and we're going to get back to the OTAs and the contract in a sec, but I want to play this. This is what Drew Rosenhaus said to Josh Mosher. And, when a prominent agent who doesn't represent the player in question, but he's as tied into the organization as Drew Rosenhaus is, because a lot of his clients do play for our organization, I listen. And let's listen to this. Now, there's like an alien buzz noise at the beginning of this, so don't mind that, but I turned it down a little bit. So I turned down the overall audio just because it was pretty loud. So let's play this clip.
For more on the Dolphins in the NFL, we bring in our insider. He is the one and only Drew Rosenhaus. Drew, a report out today that the Dolphins offered Tua a long-term contract. However, he felt that it was too low and has declined at least one offer. When this deal gets done, what do you expect the annual number to be?
I think it has to be in the ballpark of Jared Goff. To me, they're comparable players. I think when you look at Tua's statistics comparable to Goff, they're pretty close. And I would be surprised if it's not a similar deal.
4 years, $212 million. That's what Goff got. But as an agent, Drew, how do deals impact others like we could potentially see now with Tua?
Well, I think the Dolphins have been planning all along to get Tua's deal done. And I don't see much impact at all. They've already sacrificed guys like Christian Wilkins, Robert Hunt, Emmanuel Ogbah, Jerome Baker, Xavier Howard. The Dolphins have been in a sort of a budgetary discipline mode this entire offseason with their signings, I think in anticipation of getting deals done for guys like Tua and others.
How much actual leverage does Tua have, Drew?
It's got a lot. It's hard to win without a happy quarterback. It's hard to have a successful season when your leader isn't all in. So I think he's got all the leverage in the world, and I expect the deal to get done by training camp.
We saw Tua skip all of the voluntary offseason workouts. Organized team activities start this week, Drew. The question is, will he continue to sit out? If you were his agent, what would you advise him to do?
Well, I think as long as his agents feel that the Dolphins are negotiating in good faith, then I think it's okay to attend the OTAs. We have multiple guys around the NFL that are in negotiations, high-profile guys, and as long as I feel that the team has made us a good faith offer and we think there's a legitimate chance of getting a deal done, then I'm all for being there. But I understand why players don't. They could be concerned about an injury that could derail the negotiations, or maybe they're not pleased with the pace of the negotiations, or perhaps they're just trying to use leverage.
Drew, you represent multiple players on this Dolphins team, including Tyreek Hill. Have any of them come to you and said, you know, they're a little bit worried about Tua potentially not getting a deal done and this thing blowing up?
I haven't heard any real concern. I think a lot of people have confidence within the team, the players, coaches, everyone that I've been around is pretty optimistic that this deal is ultimately going to get done. I don't think many people around the NFL are anticipating anything less than an extension at some point between now and the start of training camp.
Drew, we appreciate you making the time every Sunday night with us. Thank you so much.
So there you go. Twice over in the same segment, Drew Rosenhaus said he expects the deal to get done by training camp. And then he ended it by saying people around the league are optimistic it's going to get done, and that'll get done by training camp. That's the league-wide expectation. And then he even said, you know, he indicated if the Dolphins are negotiating in good faith with athletes first, then Tua's going to show up, and that's what I would advise him to do. And what happened? Tua showed up. Again, this is coming down to the incentives and the finer details of the contract. That's what this is all coming down to. And this is, I've been telling all y'all since I heard that the idea of this not happening by free agency opening up, training camp was probably the next target date, so they could get through training camp, they could start negotiating with the Jalen Waddles and the Javon Hollands. Now, would they like this done tomorrow so they can start those negotiations early? Probably. But the keywords are by training camp. So that's quite the window. So clearly things are picking up pace in regards to this stuff. And I do think a deal gets done. Now, the Miami Herald, they put out this article today, courtesy of Omar Kelly. And Tua shows up to OTAs. Is a deal with Dolphins getting closer? The offseason is typically used as a time to handle NFL business, but it seems as if Tua Tagovailoa is walking a fine line of sending the Miami Dolphins organization a message while trying to be a leader of his offense. After reports surfaced that Tagovailoa was skipping the Dolphins OTA sessions last week, the franchise starting quarterback for the past 4 seasons apparently changed course, showing up to Monday's on-field offseason work, which was the first day of Phase 3 of the offseason program. Whether Tagovailoa attends the whole week and whether he participates in the on-field portion of practices, which are voluntary at this point in the year is yet to be determined. But the NFL's leading passer from the 2023 season was indeed working Miami Gardens on Monday, according to team sources. I'm telling you, it'll be a hold in. It will not be a hold out. Like, courtesy of remember what Christian Wilkins did? There was stuff he didn't participate in because he was holding in. That's what you probably might see with Tua. However, Tagovailoa's attendance doesn't mean he's close to finalizing a contract extension that makes him one of the 10 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL, securing a contract that pays him $45 million plus annually. Kirk Cousins got the most substantial deal from an NFL team this offseason when the Atlanta Falcons signed the injured 35-year-old, 9-year starter from Minnesota Vikings, giving him a 4-year, $180 million deal, which guarantees Cousins $90 million of that. And last week, Detroit gave Jared Goff, who owns a 66-50-1 record, a 4-year, $212 million extension, guaranteeing the eighth-year veteran $170.6 million of that. I bet you could sign Tua right now for like $225 over 4 years, and the problem is you're gonna have to guarantee probably like 180 to 190 of it. The new deal made Goff, who averages $53 million a season, the sixth quarterback, joining Joe Burrow, $55 million, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts, who average more than $50 million a season, to his deal. The prevailing thought among some agents is that Tagovailoa should be next, with Jacksonville trying to extend Trevor Lawrence and Dallas's Dak Prescott making $29 million in the final year of the 4-year, $116 million deal he signed in 2021. There's a chance the quarterback market will continue to go up before Tagovailoa gets his deal. Talks with Tagovailoa's agent and general manager Chris Greer tabled during the NFL draft, but the hope was that a deal could get done this summer. Now it seems as if one might not get done until training camp and maybe even the start into the regular season. The Dolphins got through the most financially challenging offseason in the last 2 decades without redoing Tagovailoa's deal, which would have created an additional cap space since it would have reduced his $23.2 million cap hit, which accounts for all of his 5th-year option. And while the Dolphins' biggest negotiating leverage is the franchise tag Miami could use to retain Tagovailoa in 2025, preventing him from becoming an unrestricted free agent, going that route would eat up another $42.5 million in cap space, which would hinder the team's ability to put talent around the 26-year-old quarterback. A multi-year deal, no matter the price, would spread out the cap for the first 3 or 4 years, making it manageable, which would likely allow the Dolphins to find a more competitive team that they could field. This is important considering safety Javon Holland's contract expires at the end of the season, and Miami could be facing another Christian Wilkins-like exodus if he's allowed to become a restricted free agent. While edge rusher Jalen Phillips and receiver Jalen Waddle each had 5th-year options triggered this month, guaranteeing respectable salaries for the 2025 season, players in their position would prefer a multi-year deal. Both continue on the pace they've been on the past 3 seasons. We could be talking about $100 million contracts for each. And let's not forget that 2025 is realistically the last year on Tyreek Hill's contract, because it's very unlikely that Miami honors the $45 million salary he's due in 2026 in the final season of the 4-year, $120 million contract the all-pro receiver signed in 2022. To afford the rising cost of the roster, the Dolphins need to get a multi-year deal done with Tagovailoa, because the only other option is to move on to another quarterback. Plenty of players skip or limit their participation in the offseason program for various reasons, and dissatisfaction with their contracts usually sit at the top of the list. Last year, Zach Sealer attended but sat out all of Miami's on-field OTA work while his camp pushed for an extension, which he got in late August, less than 2 weeks before the regular season started. Connor Williams skipped all of Miami's offseason programs, including the mandatory minicamp, and was fined $93,000 for doing so because he wanted years added to his contract to protect him from suffering a catastrophic injury like the ACL tear that is seemingly threatened to end his career now. Wilkins participated in the offseason program and even worked for the first 2 weeks of training camp before shutting it down right up to the start of the regular season when negotiations between his camp and the Dolphins fell apart. Like, I see, if anything, I see a hold in. I think he shows, because the thing is, timing and rhythm, it's different when you're a defensive tackle and you're a quarterback. So I see a hold in where he and here's the thing, even when he's not, like, let's say he doesn't show up for a couple days, I bet you he's in at 3D QB, right? Like, I bet you he's in California working on his craft. You know, like that's just where we're at. Now, Albert Breer, on his Monday morning quarterback, he talked about the situation today. And This is what he said. A lot of questions surround Tua Tagovailoa as the Miami Dolphins move into OTAs. My understanding is that Tua Tagovailoa will be present with his Miami teammates as the team moves into Phase 3 of the offseason program. But he has, as Jonathan Jones at CBS reported, picked his spots on voluntary workout at his camp, and as his camp and the team continue to work through his unsettled contract situation. The nitty-gritty of it is pretty simple. He's locked in on a $23.2 million fifth-year option for this season. After that, the Dolphins would have the option of placing the franchise tag on him in 2025, with the price tag currently projected between $40 to $45 million. Meanwhile, Miami has moved a lot of money around this offseason. They let Christian Wilkins leave in free agency. They cut a couple guys like Jerome Baker and Xavier Howard, who's been paid like a franchise cornerstone. The aggressive pressure they've taken in recent offseasons with Tagovailoa has been more muted this year, while middle-class signings such as Jordan Brooks, Jordan Poyer, and Shaquille Barrett filling up the roster. It is, in short, a team operating like one about to pay its quarterback. For his part, Tagovailoa has hired a mechanics coach after generally doing that work with his dad. He's brought up He's brought aboard John Beck, the much-respected 3D QB guru. He's also been with the team enough to keep up with everything that's going on. But clearly, the decision to be judicious with his presence would send a message. Tagovailoa's camp saw a deal with $50 million in APY coming over a year ago based on market conditions. And those market conditions have cooperated given what Goff and Kirk Cousins have both landed this offseason. So then, will the Dolphins go where they need to go to get a new deal for Tagovailoa? And he says, I can't imagine they wouldn't, given all they've invested already. But that doesn't mean there won't be more bumps along the way. So even Albert Breer, he expects a deal to get done. It's not as smooth as possible. And I told all y'all this was a big time realistic possibility when he went with athletes first. You know? Now, we've talked a lot about Tua, but Joe Shad had a pretty good article come out, and let's go over it. And it was Tua Tagovailoa and the top storylines from OTAs, because there's a key point in here. Tagovailoa and the top 5 Miami Dolphins OTA storylines. The Dolphins begin organized team activities on Monday, and they'll have a practice session open to the local media, not the public, tomorrow on Tuesday at the Baptist Health Training Complex. Live contact is prohibited at OTAs, but teams can run 7-on-7, 9-on-7, and 11-on-11 drills. Tagovailoa is reportedly participating on Monday. The Dolphins, led by Coach Mike McDaniel, who is entering his 3rd season, will have 3 OTAs this week, 3 OTAs next week, and 3 mandatory practices on June 4th to 6th. Remember, these are still the on-season work. On-field work is voluntary. So them, running a practice session tomorrow, that's voluntary. That part of OTAs tomorrow is voluntary. So remember that if Tua decides I'm not participating. Everyone expects the Dolphins and Tagovailoa agency at Athletes First to come up with an agreement on a new long-term extension before the start of the season. It probably will come in around the terms of Jared Goff's new deal, which is $53 million per season. Tua reportedly skipped some voluntary spring workouts. We also know he's been working with personal quarterback coach on the West Coast. Tua is even-keeled, positive, and humble. We do not expect Tua to be a problem in any way as his contract is worked out. It'll be interesting to also observe how backups Mike White and Skylar Thompson perform, as well as undrafted free agent quarterback Gavin Hardison of UTEP. Remember, I told y'all, I warned all y'all, in shorts, they're going to love his arm, watch, but when you put on pads in real situations, Hardison's going to look bad, I'm telling you. Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips injuries are another storyline. What, if anything, do Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips do on the field or off to the side at Miami Dolphins OTAs? An ideal situation, one or both those players is ready for the home opener against the Jags on September 8th. We are more than 3 months away from the opener, so there's lots of times, of course. But what we see those players doing or don't see could provide a context clue. Other players who finished last season on the injured reserve, like Isaiah Wynn, Salvin Ahmed, Cameron Good, and Zeke Vandenberg. Wide receiver competition. There's no hitting or tackling in OTAs, but there are wide receiver versus defensive back drills, and they can be interesting. Let's assume Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Odell Beckham, and Braxton Berrios are safely on the roster. Well, which of these players among the others makes the roster? Malik Washington, Eric Ezukanma, River Craycraft, or Tajay Washington? And do any of those players open eyes as a future roster sleeper or key practice squad addition in terms of Jaquan Burton, Anthony Schwartz, Matthew Sexton, or Braylon Sanders? Will Jalen Wright dazzle? Jalen Wright's college coordinator, Joey Halsell, told us about the Dolphins rookie. His speed it's powerful. Some guys look like they're gliding. With Jalen, it's like he's digging into the ground, attacking every step. It's like watching a thoroughbred. When he runs, it is a powerful, violent act. Wow. We can't wait to see this in person. The Dolphins gave up a future third-round pick without the intent to work right into the lineup this season. We saw McDaniel do it last season with Devon Achane, and Wright has the reputation of a willing, competent blocker. That's so often what holds rookie running backs back. Just how fast does Wright look, how explosive, and how dynamic. Kendall Fuller and the cornerbacks. The Dolphins signed Kendall Fuller, 29, to replace Xavier Howard. Fuller has experience playing slot corner, boundary corner, though you suspect he'll start outside opposite Jalen Ramsey. Over the last 3 seasons, Howard allowed 11 touchdowns and 7 interceptions and pass ratings of 72.6, 101.2, and 81.3 according to Pro Football Reference. Over the last 3 years, Fuller allowed 18 touchdowns with 6 interceptions and passer ratings allowed of 95.9, 87.1, and 120.4 according to Pro Football Reference. So there are a lot of, but people need to remember these, this is the underwear Olympics. All right. This isn't, we aren't out here talking about, pads yet. So let's temper our expectations. But OTAs started today and are open to media tomorrow for a practice session. All right. So let's keep it going. Let's get off to his deal for a little bit. And let's talk about Dan Orlovsky. Going back to the schedule for a second, I don't know if you guys had seen this or not. Meant to get it a couple days ago, but we had too much stuff to go over. Over 470 of you in the room. Smash that like button, by the way. Dan Orlovsky. I mean, what are we saying here? I'm going to play this clip from Dan Patrick.
Give me the team or teams that your opinion changed after the schedule was released.
Okay, so I think Miami's final 6 games, and I felt like Miami would be a team that would be very different back in November, December than they would at the start of the season, just because of the injuries that they sustained last year. Jalen Phillips would be coming back. Bradley Chubb would be coming back more than likely. And so I thought, like, hey, if they could get hang around early on and then somewhat of a favorable schedule on the back end, at least hypothetically, they got a chance to continue to be into that playoff conversation. Their final 6 games are absolutely brutal. I think 5 of the 6 games will be more than likely playoff teams. And I'm pretty sure 3 of those 6 games are on the road in cold weather. I think they go to Green Bay Thanksgiving. The second to the last or third last week of the season, they go on the road to Cleveland and then on the road to the New York Jets. And so I felt really good about Miami because I honestly believe they could weather the storm. They still might, but those final 6 games are absolutely brutal. I think.
All right, so let's go through these final 6 games. Okay, I said this before, I'll say it again. That Green Bay team, and this is just going off the roster right now. Everyone's healthy, works, even though we know everyone won't be healthy. Okay. Jordan Love. Everyone knows I support Jordan Love, and I'm a huge Jordan Love guy. Have been since the draft, 2020 draft. Okay, that team is almost identical to the one Tua was about to blow out before he got concussed. Aaron Rodgers couldn't keep up, like MVP Rodgers couldn't keep up with Tua in that game. So that's number 1. Okay, so come on, I expect us to win that game. Am I the only one who the Jets? Okay, let's say Aaron Rodgers is healthy. That's week 14 and week 18. At least Jalen Phillips will be back. Chubb will probably be back for that too. Plus add in where Chop's going to be by that point. Mo Kamara. Grayson Murphy when I think he makes the roster. What are we talking about? That offensive line is a disaster. And Tua scorches that elite defense regularly. Regularly puts up 30 burger or plus like it's nothing. So this ain't going to be some game where Rodgers is just going to be able to squeak it out with 10 or 14 points. Rodgers is going to have to put numbers on the board to even stand a chance. Houston. All right. Everyone's feeling them after they won a playoff game last year. That's cool. They're in the weakest division, arguably, in one of the weakest divisions in the NFL, and not arguably, they are in the weakest division of the AFC. All right, and who's to say C.J. Stroud ain't going to have a sophomore slump? We just saw Kohu go through one. Okay. 49ers. Toughest game in the last 6, and we got them at home. So that's in our favor, at least. I still think we probably lose that game. Cleveland, Sunday Night Football. Okay, sure. I'll give it to you. It's December 29th. It'll be cold. There could be some snow, sure. But am I the only one who has watched Deshaun Watson since he became a Brown? Talk about worst quarterback contract in the history of the NFL so far. That contract's turning into about as good as the one the Toronto Raptors gave Akeem Olajuwon a lot of years back. Let's be honest. And then we got to go to MetLife. I'm not worried about beating the Jets at MetLife. I'm worried about the field injuring players. I'm more worried about injuries than I am about beating the Jets. Again, look at Tua's record. And this is probably going to be Robert Saleh's last year, and he's going to get canned. So, I don't get I don't get. Like, I see one loss, max 2 in the last 6. And by the way, for those asking, those wondering, I'm probably going to be coming out. It's looking like right now the one I'm eyeing is the Raiders game. That's the one that's probably, it's looking like it's going to be the Raiders game potentially. Raiders or the Patriots game at home. We'll see. But it's looking like it's probably going to be the Raiders game. I sat down with the wife and was going over. So, anyways, I digress. Who's the big boogeyman on this schedule? To me, it's the San Francisco 49ers. And obviously, the Bills, because we haven't beat them yet. Well, we beat them once. Tua's beat them once. What is he, 1-6 against them? And I really see us beating the Bills in week 2. There's a good chance we don't suffer our first loss till week 9 when we got to travel to Buffalo. So, I don't know what the big... I don't know. I mean, you're expecting injuries to ravage us if you're really worried about those last 6 games. I mean, I don't know when. I'd be betting against the Jets in Vegas, not with them. Let me put it that way. So, and I agree with Rhino. We're a different team at home, and so I like our chance against the 49ers. So do I. I just think Shanahan might have McDaniel's number right now. So, listen, I would love to come down for a primetime game. I know I'm going to be coming for the Vegas game probably. So I'll try and get another game in this year. The problem is I want to get in a primetime game, but like you got to come in the first 4 weeks or else you miss it because then you got to go on the road. And I ain't going to Cleveland. I have no desire to go to Wisconsin. Like, I want to see Lambeau before I hit the dirt, but do I want to go to Lambeau for American Thanksgiving? Like, let's be honest with ourselves. You know what I mean? What am I going to get? A Wisconsin cheese stuffed turkey? I'm good. I'm good. And that's another thing, too. Robert's got it right. I want to come to a home playoff game. That's why I don't want to just, splurge on regular season games. I want to come to a home playoff game. That's what I want to come to. And looking at that Buffalo Bills roster, our chances have gotten better every year. We almost did it last year, and I think we finish it this year, and we do win the division this year. So, man, I'm sorry. I see a 13-14 win team. I really do. And Rhino, you better be coming out to that game with me because Ball Game going to be coming to that game with me, all right? And I'm actually probably going to be staying in the Orlando area when I come out for that Raiders game, Rhino. So you and Ball Game, we going down for that game, all right? We'll make a night trip out of it. All right. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Over 480 of you in the room. Appreciate each and every one of you coming through. Fin Too Deep will return this week, as will the Finish Line. Planning to go live tomorrow. I got my daughter's first baseball game of the season. So I'm going to be going on live to cover the OTAs tomorrow, as well as that. And then on Wednesday, I'll be live with Richmond and Ball Game. Thursday with Neil, and we're going from there, man. As OTAs have begun. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. I appreciate each and every one of you for spending some of your Monday evening with me. Love all y'all. Appreciate all y'all. And I'll see each and every one of you on the next one. As always, fins up. Go Fins, because the cease and desist hit. Whatever floats your boat. And let's get it in. I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy, guys and gals.